Livable urbanism. The topic of this design unit asks the fundamental question of what is a livable city? After all, people increasingly live in cities. What makes cities truly livable is essential for the future of communities. The answer to this problem is varied. The discourse ranges from waste management to flood management. But no city can be livable without 1. An inclusive society, 2. A collective sense of identity, 3. And a space for social exchange. An inclusive society allows all members to freely contribute to the development and maintenance of the city. A collective sense of identity comes from communication theory, where the individual of a society has something which can bind them together, strengthening their bond to their environment as well as to their community members. And having a space for social exchange is the quality of the urban environment which supports and enables the community to better each other's lives through the natural transference of daily practices which creates their identity. Kochi is a city in desperate need of all three things due to the one main issue, that it lacks cultural identity. The lack of cultural identity is due to the current lack of understanding of Kochi's trading history, started to bring about and accommodate for the variety of beliefs, faiths, backgrounds, languages, and activities of each member of Kochi's society today. And when these inhabitants are able to express their identity within their environment, they truly feel like they belong in that place. And so, in 1341, Kochi came to be recognized as the biggest natural port and center of trade on the western coast, the Queen of Arabian Sea, which has since started on a steady stagnation. Based on livable urbanism survey in Kochi, we know that 1. Kochi has a density of 6,340 people per square meter, and 2. 43% of those residents rarely interact with others in a public space. This shows Kochi's lack of engagement within their environment, with little quality social encounters, regardless of a high population density. To go on, 60% have originally migrated here outside of Kochi, and 70% of survey answers show current residents of Kochi will soon move out. This is a vital fact. The idea that Kochi's fundamental problem is in its lack of engagement with cultural identity. Trade is the origin of identity of Kochi. It is more the shock that we come to know the vernacular market is one of the most unlivable spaces within Kochi today. What once was the strength of Kochi's identity has now become a space without resting spaces and without mixed use, which has slowed the growth of cultural value of that place. Furthermore, the survey shows that 35% never use the market, and that the combined average annual rate of growth of income for service and construction sectors in Kerala has been around 8% for 3 decades now. In addition, 46% agree Kochi lacks an engagement with identity. These are the reasons why. There is a lack of an inclusive society, no collective sense of identity, and no space for social exchange. These are all vital for the cultural revival of Kochi, which starts with an vernacular market. Policies have regularly disappointed Kochi and their want of cultural engagement. From the lack of appropriate measures for street vendors to poor infrastructure for markets, Kochi requires an urban strategy and catalyst project which tries to tackle these cultural issues. The solution is acquired through 3 phases within Kochi. To tackle the larger cultural deprivation of Kochi, to tackle the intermediate cultural deprivation of Kochi, and finally an intervention within the heart of Kochi to catalyze cultural revival. Here is the market. It is defined by the social interactions that take place here. The temporary market, which will soon be relocated to the previously demolished and now new market through Kochi Smart City development. The key 3 problems here are a busy junction between Jew Street and Market Road, which is a hazard as well as unlivable. The majority demographics of men using the market, as opposed to all demographics. The death of the market at night due to the lack of mixed use, which is complete redundancy of the area after 8 p.m. How do we fix it? We begin with the wider Kochi, which has been chosen through strategic analysis of public spaces which lack appropriate infrastructure to support identity. These interventions will support the community in exchanging knowledge by creating a playful space where communities can meet, which will improve their understanding of their environment. Therefore, from the research, I introduced my urban strategy to solve the wider scale issue of cultural deprivation of Kochi. This includes a whole range of interventions, but first a suggestion of a modular piece of infrastructure that helps to facilitate many existing events within Kochi. This addresses the infrastructural needs of Kochi, and through a series of interventions, identity should be supported in spaces currently unlivable by the cultural identity definition. Residents, guided by the construction booklet, can easily put together what they require for their trading, education, festivals, through the social organisation system. This in conjunction with pedestrianising Jew Street, creating a delivery access only for Market Road and vendor stations, as well as other interventions, hopes to create spaces which support trade, learning, celebrations and meetings. Next, the Catalyst projects, a project which can tackle the issue immediately by engaging other demographics whom lack of use of the market is the reason for its stagnation. This is where I begin with the architectural design project. Overall, the design competition states the aims of the Catalyst program. Firstly, it is to create an experience of past identities through a maritime museum. Secondly, it is to engage in current identities through an activity space, and which would inevitably create a catalyst for identities within the realm of the interventions. The museum would consist of temporary exhibition rooms on maritime trade and shipbuilding, storage spaces, and cafes, restaurants, an archive research institute, and lastly, a crane to support the transport of heavy artifacts into the building. The activity space would consist of storage spaces containing infrastructural components seen in the urban strategy, services for the infrastructure, which come out of the ground, a helping crane for larger infrastructural models, dressing rooms for performers on event days, and a weather-sheltered space. Coming into the cultural hub through access-only Market Road, which junctions Mehta Bazaar, immediately we see how the building responds to existing axes of access. This was achieved by leaving circulation space around the existing storage buildings and the shops to the design proposal. This same ground floor space seeks to give space to the public rather than taking it away from the already populated and dense vernacular market. This marks the freedom that the public has to enact their identity practices through the modular construction pieces on the site. Although an open space, the ground provides the amenities that the construction process needs to create a well-serviced and functioning space for street vendors, lorries, cars, and bikes. When the daily market is taking place, the area rapidly constructs modular 3-meter by 3-meter stalls, which can be used to help the market during peak times as well as reducing street vendor encroachment into the roads. The larger modular pieces, the crane which sits on top of the museum, will help construct with the community. The ground floor is also a host to a cafe and a kitchen which directly links to the private museum's restaurant above. Starting from the entrance of the museum, which is placed strategically by the mouth of Mehta Bazaar, which connects with Market Road, visitors go up into the lobby space for the museum. Here visitors can experience maritime trade through temporary exhibitions from enclosed climate-controlled rooms to semi-impermeable spaces protected by a second skin perforated brick facade. Then, the whole museum can be experienced from mezzanines on the second floor, which can also witness the crane dropping artifacts through the roof hatch, to finally finish on the open roof courtyard, which exhibits large artifacts. This is all curated and kept functioning through the archive and research room, dedicated to classifying artifacts. Overall, this project looks to create more permeable, open and playful spaces, from the urban strategy affecting the wide identity issues of Kochi to the Catalyst Culture Hub, this project can create a more livable city.